Welcome to everyone joining us on today's LinkedIn Live, hosted by me. My name is Keith Barrett. I'm the head of product for international products here at Gusto, and I'm joined by Barbara Matthews, the chief people officer at Remote. So if you're a founder or an entrepreneur, you probably thought about hiring internationally, or you're considering it now. And as we heard yesterday on our LinkedIn Live, some of our Gusto economists have found that roughly 3 in 4 SMBs that have international staff are actively considering adding to their global headcount. But if you're new to hiring internationally, there's a lot to consider. And most definitely it can be scary and a little bit daunting. So today, we're going to cover kind of some of the things you need to know before making your first international hire. And just a note, I'm not a lawyer, I'm an engineer, and I don't actually think Barbara's a lawyer either. So this isn't legal advice. Really just think about it more as best practices and great advice for how you should be thinking about building your global team. So again, my name is Keith. I'm the head of product here at Gusto for international products. And I'd like to introduce my co-presenter, Barbara.
Hello, everyone. Nice to meet you all. Yes, key disclaimer, I'm also not a lawyer. Thank you, Keith. I think we are legally safe now. It's great to be with you all today, and I'm delighted to be here with you, Keith. So my name is Barbara Matthews. I'm the Chief People Officer with Remote. I'm based here in Dublin in Ireland. I've been with Remote since May of this year, and prior to that occupied various people roles at Google, and most recently head of international HR at Stripe for about 7 years. Before I kick into I have a deck and a few slides just to help you all on your decision-making and thought process about hiring internationally. But before I kick into this, I do have some housekeeping. We want to encourage folks to drop questions into the chat section. We'll be taking questions at the end of the session. So please don't hesitate to jump in and ask. We'll try to get to everyone. And if you want to learn more, the Gusto team will be dropping a playbook for SMBs thinking about hiring internationally, and the link is in the comments. So without further ado, let's get into it. I now have to do my live technical show here. So hopefully you can all, Keith, are we good to go? You can see the deck?
There we go. No. Now I can.
You can? Great. Okay.
Actually, this is my deck. Let's
is your deck.
Your
okay, well, I'll share my deck. Hang on 2 seconds, everyone. It's the beauty of live, right?
Yeah.
Okay, are we good to go here?
Yeah, that's it. I can see it.
Okay, brilliant. So I'm going to spend a few minutes today helping everyone think through the various things to keep in mind when hiring internationally from a HR and a compliance perspective. As Keith says, it can be scary, but we are going to try and make it as simple as possible for everyone. So why do companies hire internationally? There's many reasons why companies hire internationally. Some of them are listed here. The key focus for most, in my experience, is to do with global expansion, which critically means having your team in the countries that they are selling into. It also allows, this global coverage also allows companies to have a follow the sun model. And a real advantage personally, for me, when you think about global expansion, is around ensuring the organizations that are being built are diverse. So there's a couple of things that you need to know. A little spoiler here, hiring internationally is not the same as hiring in the US, but luckily Remote has tools and a robust compliance team to ensure that when you want to do it, here are the things that you need to know. Next slide. So a couple of things that you need to know. We're going to go through each of these. There's many unique challenges to hiring beyond your borders, especially if you're not a giant multinational. It's difficult to manage the risk, the complexity, the logistics, and like the literal admin that comes with hiring people all over the world. So we're going to go through each of these 4 things and discuss what you should consider before hiring internationally. So firstly, hiring remotely can be easy, but transitioning to a workplace that welcomes remote workers and has people all over the world takes effort and takes really deliberate effort. And you should be really aware of that and have a plan about that from a cultural perspective. International borders matter when you're handling payroll in more than one country, and trying to abide by multiple sets of employment laws and dealing with taxes can be challenging. There's many aspects of hiring international employees that add kind of multi-layers of complexity, especially if this is your first remote hiring experience. We have some of these up here on the slide, and we'll go through some of these. So firstly, managing payroll. Handling payroll yourself in a new country without running afoul of local laws can be a hazard. Calculating compensation, there's a lot of things you need to think about to assess and to balance, like local rates versus remote rates, ensuring that you're paying fair or competitive compensation in your country, awareness of the cost of living and the expected benefits associated with that. Also, something to be aware of is something called permanent establishment risk. This is a tax term for businesses that have an ongoing presence in a country. And if permanent establishment applies to your country, you may be subject to corporate taxes abroad, or you may be required to meet other other standards of compliance that some international companies don't. You do need to make sure that you're not misclassifying your employees as contractors. There can be significant dangers associated with that around fines or penalties. And you need to make sure that you are managing where your remote employees pay taxes. So educational resources on taxation usually cater to people in traditional environments, and it's critical to know where remote workers pay taxes so that you and they as the employer can remain compliant. So key takeaway, that all sounds very dramatic, and yet you should understand that mishandling the aspects can result in serious legal and financial consequences, but know that these issues are manageable. And that's kind of the key thing the key takeaway I would like anyone to remember when they're leaving this session. These things are manageable, and you can work with an employer of record or an expert partner who specializes in local employment law to be able to guide you through that and mediate the risks. Next, I'm going to go into some tips on building your total reward strategy. So it's really important when you're thinking globally to have an equitable and transparent compensation policy developed. So building and having a comp structure that guarantees fair and unbiased compensation and benefits everywhere you hire really leads to happy, engaged, high-performing employees, and of course, better retention. Thinking about localized benefits versus global benefits and being able to offer kind of robust localized benefits programs to make sure that you're boosting trust and retention. Different things matter in different countries, and you need to be aware of that. And it's important to understand what benefits are competitive and compliant in each country so you can offer the localized benefits that meet the diverse needs and expectations of that location. That said, all employees, across your company should have access to comparable core and supplemental benefits, regardless of location or job level. So just something to think about. It's important also to think, benefits on one side, but also comp and rewards generally. There does not tend to be a one-size-fits-all approach when you have a global lens on. So blanket benefits programs can be quite detrimental to the interests of employees. So some countries could impose additional taxes on unwanted or unneeded benefits, or the individual employees might be forced to deal with a lot more admin or a lot more paperwork for their governments. And you as an employer will also obviously save money when you're not paying for unnecessary benefits. But making sure you practice fair equity and creating this total rewards approach. For me, as I think about that, fair equity is really the practice of providing every employee with not just the benefits required by law, but also the additional benefits that'll support them in making the best of their personal and their professional lives. And think of global benefits as more of a total rewards program, a more holistic version of global comp that includes salary, statutory benefits, supplemental benefits, and other global perks. Okay. Yes, this is a good one. So I was actually very surprised when I read this article. Some of you may know this already. But I think I've missed a slide actually. Hang on. Yes, I have. Sorry. Apologies. Okay, so I want to go into some tips around hiring remotely. So that can be easy. But transitioning to a workplace that welcomes remote workers takes a lot of effort and a lot of deliberate effort at that. Adopting remote first practices allows you to create a more equal working environment for everyone, regardless of where they work. But there are some tips to enable that to happen. And we have Remote's website has a ton of tips around how to think about having an asynchronous work environment and supporting folks who are working all over the globe. So that is free to access. And we also post our handbook up there, which talks about a lot of very helpful tips that may help in thinking about building this inclusive remote first culture. But really, a few suggestions I would have is around judging employees kind of based on their productivity and their effectiveness, and not by the number of hours worked. So when you think about measuring their impact, measure their impact and achievement against goals versus time spent at the desk. And this approach builds trust that really goes both ways. In terms of documentation, when you have a remote first culture, public documentation is really critical to make sure that teams can work effectively asynchronously. So establishing intentional communication norms, processes, and expectations, and making sure to weave them through onboarding for all of the employees across the organization. This culture of documentation is really the thing that makes these remote companies successful. Practicing a really diligent culture of documentation enables the whole team, regardless of time zone, to be able to work whenever, wherever. And I guess the final thing I would say is trust your employees. You hired them for a reason, and micromanagement is probably the most common remote work problem, where employees don't feel that they are trusted. So making sure that you are being aware of that yourself, and relying on trust, I guess, and transparency, and kind of a goals-oriented approach when managing your folks in other countries. So this is the one that I was surprised about. So don't let data and workflows get the best of you. I don't know about you, but I was surprised when I read that on average, companies use 16 HR systems to manage the employment lifecycle for their local workforce, not including their international teams. And the proliferation of the HR tools can be really time-consuming, can be really expensive, and can increase complexity and obviously the risk of like error-prone tasks. So here are some best practices to try and avoid those pitfalls. Make sure to prioritize a HR product that serves the entire global employment lifecycle. So be really selective about the HR solutions that you adopt, and prioritize a global HR solution that allows you to simply and compliantly hire, pay, and manage anyone, anywhere throughout the entire employment lifecycle. The best performers manage to neatly arrange their HR stack with strong connections tying the whole system together. So advising you to consolidate your HR tools and providers using a really strong API and integrations that they have in place to manage the employment lifecycle end to end. This approach will make it really easy to share global employee data across platforms and eliminate this duplication of work. Speaking of duplication, automating as many admin tasks as possible. So really leveraging AI here. It really streamlines operations, minimizes errors, and saves time spent performing these tasks. So when you're thinking about automating, and this is something that we're delving into in remote at the moment, making sure that you're auditing firstly if your existing HR processes are in order. So automation obviously works best when your procedures are really well defined and standardized across different countries. Making sure that you're evaluating what automation software will work best for you by analyzing kind of the cost, the scalability, the security measures, and if possible, try and test a solution with a small subset of employees before rolling it out company-wide. And finally, making sure your people are familiar with any new systems and tools that are being used in the payroll process so that they understand what's required of them. And final thing is around security. Data security is a massive challenge for global companies with multiple HR systems. You need to have strict security protocols and procedures in place, such as encryption, access control, and malware protection. And doing so really helps protect your business against potential threats while also giving your employees peace of mind. Now that we've covered all of the main what you need to know before hiring internationally, hopefully I did not scare too many of you. Remember that everything is manageable as long as you have a good support structure around you. But I'll now hand things back over to Keith, who's going to walk us through how remote, in partnership with Gusto, is helping US businesses quickly tap into their global talent pool, compliant with Gusto Global, powered by remote. Thank you.
That was awesome. Huge thank you, Barbara, for walking us through those compliance watchouts. Lots and lots of things to consider. I'm super excited, and now I want to share a bit about Gusto Global, which is powered by remote, as Barbara mentioned. We've been building Gusto Global, an employer of record solution, and it's designed to basically make it really easy for SMBs to hire, pay, and manage your international employees, all while having peace of mind about compliance, as Barbara mentioned. Lots of things and watch-outs there. So I have some slides to share. And here we go. So whether you're just getting started with global hiring or you already have some international team members, expanding your team globally can be complicated, just like Barbara mentioned, and it is a bit scary. But we get it. And we've talked to our customers about the challenges they face with global hiring. And we've heard a few kind of key themes over and over and over again. The first is managing payroll and HR across various countries can be overwhelming. And we often hear that customers are navigating a web of different disjoint kinds of systems, and they're having to do manual processes. This obviously is a time-consuming thing, and all these different systems and manual processes lead to errors. And as Barbara mentioned, there's a lot of security concerns when you're using multiple vendors. So I was speaking to a nonprofit, really amazing company. They have 30 employees in 4 countries, and they're focused on helping children learn math and reading in low-income countries. And they're getting hindered on the expansion because it's not that easy to hire internationally. The nonprofit has 2 field offices where they work with local lawyers and employment specialists, and for the third, they actually use a PEO where honestly they have very little control over things. And they want to streamline international hiring for countries that they're already in. As the team spends, it's crazy, 6 hours a week on operational kind of logistics in all of these countries. Think about that, 6 hours a week, 24 hours a month. And we're talking about very, very low kind of return work. This is just managing the process. This isn't actually doing the core things like helping the children, right? That's what they actually want to be doing. Next, what we've heard is they're confronted with complexities on unique tax and labor laws in each country, and these can be both confusing and financially draining if you mishandle them. So for example, in Canada, there are fines for misclassifying employees as contractors, and that can range between $50,000 to $500,000. That's a lot of money. In Australia, similar violations, it can cost you upwards of $80,000 per incident. So this gets really, really expensive really, really quickly, and each country is complex with their own kinds of rules and regulations. And finally, the current option of establishing, funding, and maintaining your own entity in multiple countries compounds the challenge, right? So having your own entity in a new country can be extremely costly and take a lot of time to get started. It takes an estimated 3 to 5 months to go through the full incorporation process in the country. And those are the ones that have like favorable legislation to do that. In other countries, we're talking half a year to almost an entire year. Think about that. You want to hire somebody, and if you want to set up your own entity, it could take upwards of a year before you're even able to do that. That's just a tremendous amount of time before you can actually get to work. The total hard costs can vary widely per country, but they can easily range for $100,000 for the very first year. And that's according to the country and whatever charges for things like incorporation, contract creation, registration, license, benefits, legal counsel. There's just so many things to think about. And there are just going to be ongoing costs as well. As you get set up, each entity, it's going to require post-incorporation support throughout the entire life cycle of that entity, including constant monitoring for regulatory challenges. So if you don't have time or resources to manage multiple systems and manual processes, navigating the legal and regulatory implications in a new country, or even like standing up your own local entity to hire international employees, have no fear. Gusto Global is going to streamline the hiring, the onboarding, the payment and management of your international and US workers in a single system. First, we'll help you to manage all of your US and global team in a single platform. So you're not having to navigate multiple systems just to get your team paid. Next, Gusto Global has country-specific compliance. It's built right into the system. So you can hire in a new country with confidence, knowing you're meeting local regulations. And finally, through our partner remote, you gain access to in-house HR, legal, tax, and benefits experts around the world. This is their bread and butter. They know the local rules and regulations, and you can think of them as an extension of your team. So let me show you how that works. I'm gonna stop sharing this screen and share another one with you. So bear with me for just a sec. As Barbara mentioned, we got to do the technical dance.
You can do it, Keith.
We're gonna make it happen. Here we go. All right. So Barbara, I think I got a thumbs up. You
Yeah,
guys can see
you're
my
good.
screen. Lovely. Okay. Okay, so so when you log into Gusto, this is the Gusto application. You'll see your homepage with key tasks and this side navigation here, where you can access all of Gusto's tools to help you manage payroll, benefits, HR, and more, all in a single system and platform. So let's actually dive in to how you're going to add that international employee. You're going to go to the People tab, and you're going to go to Team Members, and you're going to click Add a Team Member. And on this screen, you're going to see that you can add a team member from the US and even across the world, all within Gusto. And whether they're an employee, an individual contractor, a business contractor, with Gusto, you can manage your whole team in one place. So in this example, we're gonna hire this person in Canada. Save and continue. So on this next screen, you'll be able to add information about your new employee, like their job title, when are they going to start, who's their manager. Great. So onto the next screen, and here you'll be able to add compensation details, like how much should this person get paid, what's their salary. We even have a currency converter here, so you'll understand how much you're going to be paying them in US dollars, but also how much they'll be getting paid in Canadian dollars. And if we scroll to the bottom, we also break down the total estimated cost to pay your international employees, including their salary, the cost for Gusto Global, for providing this employer of record service through remote, and mandatory employer costs, which are typical costs required by the country and the regulation. So when it comes to pricing and fees in true kind of Gusto fashion, we're always very transparent, and we want to make sure there are no hidden charges or surprises. You're always going to know how much you're paying and when you have to. So let's click Save and Continue. And on this screen, you'll be able to add employment details, like the employment terms, the role details, and even benefits. Right down here. Benefits come at a highly negotiated rate and are administered through our partner Remote. And having benefits as part of your employer of record service enables you to really take care of your international employees without needing to research and negotiate your benefits and packages in each new country you hire in. And with Gusto Global, you see the localized compliance for each country is built directly into the product. So you can hire international employees with confidence. So let's actually take a look right here. So in this example, we provide guidance on how to manage paid time off in Canada, which is based on the length of service at a company based on Canadian regulations. Great, let's keep moving. So from here, you'll get a chance to review all the details that we just put in to make sure that they're correct. You'll also get a preview of what to expect next when you click Invite. What we're going to do is we're actually going to invite your employee to review and accept the employment details that we just reviewed here. When the employee accepts that, Remote will invite them to create an account and finish onboarding. So to ensure kind of a seamless experience, we're going to have a dedicated onboarding buddy from Remote who's going to reach out to your employee to kick those things off. So we'll click Invite here. And voila, easy peasy. And just like that, we've kicked off the process that we just went through. So once your employee is onboarded, you'll be able to pay them right from Gusto. Let's check it out on the Run Payroll page. So here, you can run payroll for your entire team, just like you always have. You see your US employees and contractors and international contractors. And now, aha, we have the ability to pay international employees as well. We're all right here, straight through Gusto. And the best part with Gusto Global, payroll for international employees runs automatically. So you don't have to worry about manual pay runs for each of your different countries. We're just automating things, taking things off your plate, making your life easier. For international employees, you'll also be able to manage time off, bonuses, and expenses. So let's take a look at expenses. So here you'll see that Otto has submitted an expense from their profile, actually in Remote, which now appears in your Gusto dashboard. You'll be able to click on that expense, and you have the ability right here to understand the details. And right from Gusto, you have the ability to approve or reject it. And just like that, we approved it, and Otto is going to get reimbursed for that expense in their next payroll. You can also create expenses for international employees from Gusto. And again, those will be automatically added and approved. And that's our demo. on how to hire, pay, and manage international employees in Gusto. So if we can just go back to that nonprofit I was talking about, and thinking about the 6 hours that they're spending weekly, the 24 hours a month that they're having to manage this process. And you just saw how really simple it is to add an employee, manage their pay, manage their expenses and time. We're really thinking about how do we save you time and really make this really easy for you. And so with that, I'd actually like to let you know that Gusto Global is launching very soon. So if you're interested, please sign up on the wait list. I want to thank everyone so much for joining today's talk. And for the last handful of minutes here, I want to open up the floor to any kind of Q&A and comments that we might have. Okay, so let's read this out loud. So why not partner with existing companies that can help you to be your subcontractor EOR in each country, especially since local companies are already established and have everything covered?
So that's what remote is, an employer of record in each of the countries. So it's a partnership.
Yeah, that's literally what we're doing. So you will actually have remote, which is the employer of record in each of these countries, and just through Gusto, you will kind of seamlessly get that experience. We're bringing all of that into one place, so you don't have to go and find those different employer of records. You just get it all just through Gusto. Will Puerto Rico be added to Gusto as a domestic territory or be part of Gusto Global as a country? How about I take this question offline, and one of our teammates will definitely put this in we'll be able to follow up with you. So we got a question from Jill, I believe. That's, what's the difference between hiring international contractors versus international employees?
I can take that.
Yeah.
So remote actually enables you to hire contractors also and manage and pay them anywhere in the world. The hiring is probably the same, but the restrictions and the employment laws are different for contractors versus employees. There's certain lengths of contracts that they can have, certain working hours. So it varies. It depends on the country. There's actually a whole section on contractors on a remote website if you want to dive into that.
Yeah, at a super high level, you also have ability to pay international contractors through Gusto. There's, as Barbara mentioned, there are unique actual rules for each country around how long you can actually keep someone as an international contractor before you actually have to move them over to an international employee, how much work they can do, what types of things they can actually be part of within your team. So for example, should they be allowed to be in like performance reviews and other kinds of normal things that happen with employees, and how you incorporate them into those processes actually will help dictate whether they can be a contractor or an international employee. And again, the complexity here is it's really country to country.
Country to country, yeah.
So we got another kind of question here. Do you see a lot of demand for hiring internationally? I can take that. Yeah, you can take it, and I can take it too.
Yeah,
please.
go for it.
Yeah, so absolutely, we hear this as a top kind of feedback from our customer base, and again, we are serving SMBs in the United States across all industries, all kinds of all the states, and so yes, resoundingly, work is now global. After COVID, people are just looking for talent. Remote work is remote work. It doesn't matter where good people are. You just want to bring good people onto your team, and our customers are definitely looking for the ability to bring on lots and lots of people wherever they are.
I mean, plus one to everything you just said there, Keith. Our company, Remote, started about 4 years ago, and kind of for the first 9 months, it was ticking along nicely. solidly, and then COVID hit and the company just went up and to the right. The demand is huge and continues to grow, thankfully. What are some of the, for Barbara, what are some of the biggest compliance blockers to think about when hiring internationally? I mean, there's lots from a tax I can't go into them in detail. I'll be here all day. There's lots from a tax perspective, a lot in terms of how you're hiring, even things like allocating equity. Like in some countries, you can really, the employee will be under the hammer to actually pay some of the tax on the equity before it's even realized. So there's a lot of kind of interesting small ones like that. Compliance in terms of the contractual obligations country by country does vary. It's just, I think my whole TLDR is the world is so global. There are different laws for every single country. I think if you want specifically to dig into a specific country, I would email compliance@remote.com with your specific question, because really it just varies country to country, and depending on the type of employee that you're hiring as well versus a contractor.
All right. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure. Barbara, thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you all found this super informative and some kind of tips and tricks to think about when you are considering hiring internationally. And we absolutely hope that you will consider Costo Global. It's been fun.
And if anyone is looking to where they find Remote, I might do a little plug if that's okay, Keith. So you can find Remote on LinkedIn @Remote, and you can find me on LinkedIn @Barbara Matthews. To learn more generally about how Remote can eliminate barriers to international hiring, please check out remote.com, and there's a ton of resources that you can access without even signing up. So do please leverage them if you need support or help in your expansion.